belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, do you see the beauty? When all I see is a cross, God, you see the empty tomb. Oh, so when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. When I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my head lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Want to sing that verse again? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind. grace that taught my heart to fear and raised my fears relieved. As precious dear that grace appeared, the hour I first believed. Introduce a new song to you now. This is a song called Honey in the Rock, and it needs a bit of an intro, I think, given that the big feature of this song is the phrase "honey in the rock," which probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So let me just give you a bit of context. I think the Old Testament is full of promises to God's people, right? Which are the descendants of Abraham. And the thing is that when Jesus came, he made us a part of that. And that was the beautiful thing, that when you read Acts, you can really see the apostles get behind that. They get really excited about how we are now a part of God's people. And that we, from after the fall, when we were split from God, now we can be a part of God's people again. So I think that's something to be excited about. So when we read the Psalms, I think that that's something to keep in mind, is how we are a part of those promises. And one of the promises I guess we find is in Psalm 81, which finishes with this really interesting frame where God is telling his people that he will look after them. And he says it like this: but I will feed you with the finest of the wheat, and with honey from the rock I will satisfy you. And I think it's been a tough year for a lot of people, and it's still an ongoing journey. one of the things for me as a parent this year is that I've started to look at other parents differently. I see them now as like walking trauma victims, and I realise that Emily's still going through it. And so I've realised that it's pretty tricky, it's pretty tough, and parents all carry this baggage with them everywhere they go. And I've just been recognising that, and for other reasons, 2022 has been tough, and I kind of see 2022, 2021, and 2020 as kind of one big COVID year. And I look back on this year and see that a lot actually happened. And so I just wanted to bring this before you to recognise that this passage was given to the people of God to remind them that when they're in a time of wilderness, that they will be able to find honey in the rock, that God will provide, even when you're in the wilderness. And for them, the wilderness, like when I think wilderness, I think forestry, like a sort of lush green area, but for them, wilderness really meant the desert, east or west. And so for them, it really means that the barren wastelands. And so he's talking about honey will come even from a rock. That's what I will provide for you. So as we sing this new song, I encourage you join in as you feel comfortable, I encourage you to sing with us about how God looks after us. There's honey in the rock, or water in the stone, manna on the ground, no matter where I go. I don't need to worry now that I know everything I need you got. There's honey in the rock. a tabernacle, which is a time of remembering. A time of remembering being in tabernacles in the wilderness for the people of God. So for those of us who are in a time of wilderness, I encourage you to remember times of wilderness and thank God for the times when we can draw to God. How sweet it is to trust in you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks, bro. Great words, weren't they? Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Cass. And we want to welcome you all to the service today, this afternoon. And for those of you who are at home, and for those of you here, we hope that Christmas is not too much for you. And Tom's going to be talking about that in his message today. We talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago. Somebody said to me, one of my neighbours, coming Liz, we're coming, not yet. One of my neighbours said to me, I hate Christmas. And then in that same conversation, he said to me, I got my family coming up from Melbourne, and one from Sydney, and we haven't seen them for so long, and we're just going to have a good time. And I thought, well, what does he mean by hating Christmas? And maybe it's just, as we all know, it just gets so hectic. And again, Tom's going to be talking about that as well. Last night, I was taking my 8-year-old granddaughter home. She and 2 other grandchildren had spent 2 days at our place. And as we were going home, we were looking at the lights. And I don't know how we got onto it, but she said, I think she said, I'm glad I'm not born on Christmas Day. And I started to think about that. And I said to her, Georgie, you know, we have somebody in our family who was born on Christmas Day. Yeah, and she doesn't like the fact that she was born on Christmas Day. And then Georgie said something very profound, which we all know. She said, Jesus was born on Christmas Day. Let's remember that. As the children go out, let's remember that. You've got the chance now while parents take the children out, thank you, Liz, to just talk amongst yourselves, to give those people who are taking children out. There you go, Liz. I think she's the only one, is that right? Oh, no, there's a few others. So why don't you just, for a couple of minutes, stand up. Yeah, that means stand up. And just talk about a few bits like Chris. And maybe just have a bit of a chat to some of the people that... Hi, everyone. Hey, come back, Chris. Come back. And just talk to somebody who maybe you haven't had a chance to talk to today. Just for a few minutes until parents come back in. Everybody's back. So that means you might like to finish up the conversation and come back to us here. Because we want to do something that we didn't do a week or two ago, and that's to say congratulations to Matt and to Dorothy. We forgot to do that, so we're sorry guys, but it's nice to see you here, all four of you. It's great. It's good to see you not driving trains. Not today? That's good. So, and just another little bit of info. Eunice Aldous is going in for cancer treatment. So I think not a lot of us know, but we might be thinking of her this time too. Okay. Let's see the announcements. Yeah, here we go. It's a bit sad, isn't it, that this is still going on? And I think that some of our people are still probably concerned about this. So we might think about it over the Christmas period. Kids have already gone, so that's good. And if you missed it last week, well, it's not on, you missed it. But after church today, there is going to be free coffee, free all sorts of things, as a way of thanking the many people who are involved in the carols. So you're all invited to come, and I've been told that I have to say that a special treat tonight is affogato. So you'll all line up in that much. All right. So what else is on? Again, I mentioned Tom is continuing with this particular theme and what to do. And then on Sunday, next Sunday, 8:30. And it says that it's only going to go for 45 minutes, and it usually does. So you're encouraged to come to that as well. Just remind you again that there is a basket at the back and other ways that you can give, and it's important that we continue to support the work of the church here and all the aspects that we have. So we encourage you to do that. And then, as I mentioned just a bit earlier, then you might like to come, all of you, and free coffee, affogato. All right. Now, the last few weeks we've been sharing some of the things that you have said about health check, and different people have been talking about it. And so today, Jasmine's going to come and share with us.
Not really, they're just special. Hey everyone. So yeah, as David said, we've been sharing over the last couple of weeks just some of the feedback that came out of our health check last month, I think it was. And I'm going to share a little bit about the worship space this evening. And I'm not going to talk very long because gratefully, thankfully, most of the feedback that we heard from the health check was overwhelmingly positive around our worship, and so that's really encouraging. But there are 3 things I'd like to feed back to you on behalf of the worship team. The first piece of feedback that we had was that they would like that there's a request for titles of songs to be put on screen, and I noticed tonight that gets a big tick, so there we go, that's one thing of feedback. The second thing is that we'd actually really like to hear what some of your favourite songs are. We're really aware of the fact that we're a big family and we span a lot of generations, and that there is a lot of music that's available to us, and we want to know what's special to you. We want to know what you would actually like to hear and like to worship along with us. And so if you have maybe 3 or 4 songs that are some of your favourites that have fallen off rotation in the previous years and time, would you come to myself or Cass or Cam and just share with us those titles, because we'd like to hopefully work some of those into our sets next year so that we can be aware and sensitive to the fact that we all come from different time periods of different music, and there are some timeless classics that we want to keep in rotation. So if you could do that, we'd be most grateful, so that we could put them on a list to keep them aware. And I also was in conversation with someone the other day that there's a lot of songs I don't know that come from previous generations to me that I would love to know. So there could be some of my favourites coming out at this time, if you'd be willing to share. And the third thing I'd just like to feedback and also ask you is to pray for the music team. It's a big call to show up on a Sunday and to serve, and to not only just show up on the Sunday, but to be prayerfully and intentionally preparing for every Sunday that they serve, to choose the songs to hear from God, to organise the team, to prepare music. Just a special shout out to Cass and Cam, because I've been really touched and encouraged by their worship over the past several months. Their input is just invaluable. And so could you please be praying for wisdom and for strength, and that God would continue to raise up musos to come and serve with us, because as we're a growing church, we need growing teams. And so if that's something that you would like to tap someone else on the shoulder, or you have something in your heart that you would like to step up in this place, please approach one of us. And that's all I have to share.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah. And Tom comes to share with us, and as he does, I just want us to pray. And then it's the message. Brother, let me pray for you, or pray for us as we listen. Our Father and our God, we just thank you for this opportunity to come together. And we want to ask that as Tom comes and brings this message to us, that we might just be in that frame of mind to listen to your voice through what he has to say. Father, bless us, bless him, and may the things that we hear today, may they be something that we can just fit into our lives, in this, especially in this Christmas time. So bless us now, we pray. In Jesus' name,
amen. Yeah, I relate to that. Is that like Christmas tiredness? Is that a thing? I feel Christmas tired. Went to Green Hills yesterday. It's always a good start, isn't it? Look, it's just, I don't know. I mean, in combination with that, right? Christmas, I've done Christmas 34 times. Like, that's a lot of times. Do you know what I mean? Some people have I've heard, done it even more than that. Which I struggle to believe at times. But I don't know, I find it difficult to tell an old story in a new way. And maybe that resonates with you. It certainly does with me. How'd you take something old and breathe freshness into it? Because the Christmas story, right, is one of the best stories going around. There's no question about it. Like in terms of if you made it into a movie, the plot twists that are happening and the way you could do it, like it writes itself. It's brilliant. And yet, every year, I sit in this space of going, how do I take a story that I've told or been listened to 34 times and make it new? Like many of us, I just feel like, especially in the last couple of weeks, like I'm adding appointments to the calendar while the ink is still drying on the last one. Like it just feels like we are flat out in this time. And they're all great things. Like it's not as if it's a bad thing to go and have a party or go and see people, but every time you're going to go back out to your favourite shopping centre. My local Coles is in Green Hills, right? And it's like... And then you add on to like all of that, like it's just... With the rising cost of living, right? And all the stress that brings, and then you're trying to sort presents into that space and how that works, and then for me, I tried to get my two children to buy a present for each other yesterday. That was brilliant. Ellie wants PJ Masks, says my boy who loves PJ Masks. So, what a coincidence that is. And then you finally get to Christmas Day, or maybe you have the celebration either somewhere around there, and all your family gets together. And for some, that's a really, really great experience. For me, that's a really great experience. But for some of us, that is a very difficult experience because it's full of personalities, maybe, who are in the room, and all that that's going to entail. Or maybe for some of us, it's because of who can't be in the room anymore, who's no longer with us, and I don't think we deal with that very well at Christmas time. In all of this, right, you got this story that we've told over and 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 over. How do you bring freshness into it? Which is a really difficult question when you're a preaching, teaching pastor, right? Because it's supposed to be fresh and new. And what I've started to realize, right, is the loss of the elements of this Christmas story is pretty ordinary. Like it's pretty not special. You got a heavily pregnant teenage girl, right? A heavily pregnant teenage girl trying to hide from society and its expectations and all of its misguided judgments, right? And into that absolute shame, there's because of these circumstances that no one else could possibly understand, and they heap this onto her. Like, surely that didn't feel special. Then you got the trip, right? From Nazareth to Bethlehem is a 4-day walk. 4 days if you're not incredibly pregnant. Like it more than doubles it. And you've got to carry everything you need with you, food, water, and then the journey there is uphill, it's downhill, it's not an easy road, and then on top of that, you've got all of the bandits waiting in the wilderness, waiting to strike. Like it's not really focused on in the Gospels, because as soon as they say Bethlehem to Nazareth to Bethlehem, everyone else knows the road, and they just go, oh yeah, that's hard, but we don't really think about it. But that would have been really hard. That would have been pretty not special, I think. And then we've got this Christmas card picture in our mind, right, of Mary and Joseph gather around this beautiful stable, and there's the donkey and the ox and the sheep, and they're all so quiet and calm, and in the middle of it, this beautiful baby asleep on the hay. It just doesn't feel that special, right? I mean, the word inn, when it comes down to there was no room in the inn, this word inn we're not really good at. It's more like guest house. Think of a 2-story house. There was no room in the top level of the house. And so instead they're probably underneath that, which is where all the donkeys would have hung out. And so upstairs you got this, massive family gathering going on and all the quietness that is. And then downstairs, right, you've got a donkey, you've got all the smells that bring, and then you've got a young teenage girl about to give birth, and just have that picture in your mind. Those who have been in the birthing room, it's not Silent Night. Nicely. Like it's hard. I don't know. Just not sure that Mary would have turned to the people around her in the middle of labour and said, "Oh, do you realise how sacred this moment is?" I don't know, this story just feels to me like it is really, really, really hard. That's the Christmas story for me. But these people were doing what God called them to do, right? Angel comes to Mary. She is faithful to a T. She does everything she's told to do. And in the middle of that, everything that seems to happen out of that gets harder and harder and harder. But aren't I doing what God has called me to do? Aren't I doing the right thing? Shouldn't it be easy for me? Because I'm doing what God has asked me to do? This is the journey for Mary so far, right? Heavily judged, heavily pregnant, long walk into an inn, and all the difficulty that all entails. After that, right, you've still got all the shame going around, but on top of that, right, you're now fleeing for your life into a foreign country where you don't speak the language. That's their first 2 years of life. It just doesn't feel that special to me. But consistently, and I mean consistently, God's call for us is not a call of safety, or of luxury, or of refined dining, though sometimes we may have that for a season. The call for us is to do what He did for us, which is to lay down our lives. To lay down our lives, and that does not mean that life might be smooth sailing, though it might be for a season. It means that no matter what comes up against us, we will continue to lay down our lives for Him. And in the middle of all this story, right, you've got this baby. This baby. And it might be the most magnificent story ever told. The King of Kings. The King of Kings born into dirt and grime. A baby whose life will be so significant that everything in the world will change because of his life. But here's the key. You had to be looking for him. Because if you didn't look for him, you missed him. The angels come to the shepherds, right? And they choirs of angels and go and see and they go in and they knock on the door and they walk in and they see Mary in whatever state that she's in and whatever state that Jesus is in is exactly how the angels have called it to be. That there's a baby lying in the manger, and they realize, they tap into just how sacred and magnificent this story is. And yet, how many people walked past that house and didn't knock? Because it's just another house. It's just another normal thing. It's not that special. But for now, we see that which is incredibly sacred wrapped up in this commonness. But how much do we miss because of the way we walk through this world? Where for the lack of the sacred, we just see the common. How much of the magnificence of the story that God has us involved in do I miss because I've stuck my head into something else and I've got my head in the sand? That in the middle of all my busyness of the season, in the middle of all my wonderful trips to Green Hills, I missed something that was right there in front of me the whole time. That in the common, He is with me. This evening I'm going to leave you with a story, and then we're going to watch a video, and then Dave's going to come and lead us in communion. The story is this: it was at Carol's last week, right? All the fireworks going off. I have an odd relationship with fireworks. They start, and I'm all like, oh, I'm on board. How great are fireworks? And then, generally, after about 30 seconds, I'm like, okay, you got to do something pretty impressive because you got to, like, they don't. It's hard to take it up a level from the first level, and then it's hard. It's like, okay, well, those New Year's fireworks that go for 11 minutes, I'm tapped out after 2. It's like, okay, right, well, thanks. But I'm sitting there with Jonathan. He's in my lap, and he's all excited about fireworks, and so I'm all excited about fireworks. And then you see we count down. That's exciting because you can count down. You get to 1, the first one goes up, and it's like, oh, anticipation, anticipation. What I did not think of what happens next, right? The next thing is the bang, which is quickly followed by absolute sheer terror and panic in my son, who buries himself into me and goes, ah! And it's like, yeah, okay, should have thought of that. That's my bad, Jonathan. But slowly, as the fireworks keep going, and the lights and the noises, he gets used to the noises and starts the oohs and the ahs start coming, right? And I'm sitting there with my boy, and I don't know how long that fireworks display went for, because I was absolutely captivated. Start to end. Why? Because I was participating in it with him, right? He caught the magnificence that I'm used to. He saw the sacred in the common that I just went, oh yeah. Is it any wonder that Jesus calls us to approach the kingdom of heaven like a child? Is it any wonder? They just seem to, I know they get it. They see the wonder and the magnificence in the story. And with that, let's watch this.
So there is this story where December arrives, full of calendar clashes and overtime clocking, car park chaos and late night shopping, TV specials and empty stockings, feeling empty at times. We feel other story, whispered at this time of year. It's the one we must unwrap, wading through ribbon and tinsel, amongst extravagant productions it hides in the simple. There is this girl, there is this promise, and in the depths of her being, something is growing. But I was lost in the other story. I was eating its pages. I was scrolling its news feeds. I was singing its praises. When a voice called out the child in me, and my feet decided to take a walk under starlight. I lost sight of the stars for so long, seen only dark night. But as I stumbled under their glow, I felt my heart expanding. I walked past billboards and bright lights and gift-wrapped mansions. I felt like I was on my way to see the powers confronted, the system come crumbling. There would be a new crown, new throne, a new campaign title. The newsfeed would be hijacked, the social media would go viral. There would be fairy lights, red carpets, operatic recitals. And I found myself here, with a vulnerable baby, the smell of birth and a cow trough, in a forgotten shadow of the world. The king who drips planets from the tip of his tongue, knit into flesh, held by a teenage mum. And this is how ordinary it was. And this is how magnificent it was. Jesus, Emmanuel, means God with us. Two stories, but really one story. We have eyes to see it. That story breaks into our own. The wonder, the awe, the baby, the star, in the concrete, the flat, the office, the chaos, calling us to become like him who became like us. Ordinary magnificence, glory in the dust. So what will you do with this magnificence this Christmas.
A couple of weeks ago, Tom, when he started this particular series, talked about the problems that we have when it comes to Christmas. It's like my neighbour who said he hates Christmas. And he said we need to stop and we need to think about what we just heard. It can become so hectic, but we need to stop. And we need to, I believe, be the sort of person that God wants us to be this Christmas. Some of us are going to be talking to family and friends, and it's going to be hard. But we need to be the sort of person that Jesus wants us to be this Christmas. We need to be the sort of person that Jesus wants us to be when we're just going about doing the things that we normally do. Let's be Christ to so many people this Christmas. And we come to communion. And here we are thinking about the birth, but here in communion we're thinking about why Jesus was born. He was born to die. We're born to die too, but not in the same way. Jesus was born to die for us. And I think if we just stop and be and remember why he was born, then the significance of Christmas can come through what we are to other people that we meet this coming festive time. And so I just pray now that you all might just experience as we come and just remember the death of Christ. Remember the reason that he came. And just be able to help that strengthen us for this coming period. And so as we come and take the bread and as we come and take the juice, remember, body broken for us. What a sacrifice that was. Remember the blood that was shed for us as we take the juice. And remember that he did it for us. He was born to die for us. And may that be an encouragement to us in the things that we have to do or are doing in this coming festive period. Now, Father, we just want to thank you for just the significance of what we have here before us. The bread represents your body broken for us. For the juice that represents the blood that was shed for us. And while sometimes we find that hard to understand, and why did God have to do it this way? But God is God. And this is why he sent his son to be born on Christmas Day and then to die so that we might have forgiveness of sins. Help us to realise the significance of that. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We invite you to come as you feel led to just share with us.
one thing I'll say to you as I think about this song, I heard the philosopher, theologian Dallas Willard say that when he says the Psalm 23 to himself, he imagines that goodness and mercy are like two little dogs. I won't say dash hounds because that upsets Punchy, although Punchy's not here, is he? So I can say dash hounds all I like. Imagine two little dash hounds following you around, goodness and mercy, wherever you go. And this song really kind of riffs on that, the bridge. I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. I'll sing it again. I love you, Lord, for your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hands. And from the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Sorry. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest night, you were close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God all my life. And all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, here we go. 'Cause your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. And I lay down and surrender now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. And I lay down and surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. And every breath that I am able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Sing it. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. And with every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Well, God bless you each. I normally say go buy somebody a coffee, but go and enjoy a coffee. And God bless you each. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Thanks for worshiping with us.